My name is Jim Thomas, and welcome to the Fitness Management Update. Our topic today is mistakes that we see frequently in gyms and fitness centers. Now, there's several things that we see. These are a sample of some of that. One of the first things we see is really allowing the prospect to control the sales process. And the way we would word this to you is that in an effort to provide good service, do not give up key steps of the sales process. So whether you're helping the customer do it or you're having them do it, every guest should register in. You've got needs analysis. You've got the tour. You've got the price presentation. This is really a fundamental sales process that must be absolute. It must be implemented every time. And too often the customer says, well, hey, I've only got 5 minutes, can I get some prices? We give them some prices, they leave, you never see them again. So don't allow the prospect to control the sales process. Next is inadequate research. Now, this one's pretty obvious on things like corporate deals and group sales and things like this. I mean, certainly, if you're presenting something of that nature, you should at least do the research on the company, know what they're all about so you can properly discuss that and have an intelligent conversation with them. But also, maybe research on people that are coming in as phone inquiries and member referrals. Make sure that on a phone inquiry, you know what their goals are. So if somebody else has to call them back and has to talk to them, that person has some information on them. If it's a referral, know how they know each other, and you can reference that in the conversation. So, even at its simplest level, you can do some kind of research on most of the folks that you're talking to. Talking too much. One of the things that is important in the sales process is that great attitude, that great passion, that great belief in what we offer. And what this ends up doing sometimes, it creates an environment where we over-talk. We actually become on autopilot, and it's talk, talk, talk. And the reality is you want your customer doing the lion's share of the talking here. Now, one of the tips I would give you to help you with this is get in the habit of taking notes on your needs analysis. And one of the reasons that I like doing that is it really puts you in a position of being the one asking the questions instead of being on the receiving end of answering all the questions, because if you're answering all the questions, if you're doing all the talking, you're not going to be able to take notes. Next is, sharing irrelevant information, with your prospect. And the truth is, in the sales process, I mean, this is about selling. It's not about educating. And when we talk about sharing irrelevant information, I would go to the point of saying, your job is not to educate. And if you start giving too much information to your client, in many cases, you can actually create an environment where you create objections, where you create a situation where they literally have to go home and think about it. Next, this was a big one with free trial memberships, with Groupons and things like this, but giving a trial visit to a non-trial prospect. In other words, that free week trial, as an example, that's designed as a marketing tool. It gets people in. That's what it's for. However, if a person comes in through some other means and you don't close them, that's not the place to give them a free trial. What happens in that scenario, it truly ends up becoming a crutch, for not making that sale. One of the next big mistakes we see in the sales process is, salespeople, of course, are focused on closing sales, and they get busy, but don't neglect your pipeline. In other words, you have to keep feeding new leads into your pipeline. We like to see you as an individual be adding about 15 new leads a day. You do that every day with everything else that you have, and you're making the proper follow-up and you're making the proper calls, you will continue to have success. But make sure you're developing and building that pipeline. If you don't have that, it's not really going to matter, how good you are in the sales process. And then finally, failing to close the sale. What I mean there is failing to ask for the sale, failing, to ask the customer to buy. You must ask them to buy. You can do all these things right, but if you don't ask for the sale, if you don't have the courage, if you don't have what we refer to as the decent boldness to ask, you'll never make the sale. My name is Jim Thomas, and this has been the Fitness Management Update.